G'day guys, John Michaelis here from MyExcelOnline, and I have a special pivot table video for you. These are my top 10 favorite pivot table tricks, and I want to pass them on to you just so you can become better at Excel and pivot tables. Now, I've worked with pivot tables for a long time. I've got an extreme pivot table course, which I spent 12 months recording it and perfecting it, and that has over 200 videos, and then we'll talk about that at the end of this tutorial. But throughout that experience, I have picked out my top 10 pivot table tricks. They're going to help you become more confident at pivot tables. Okay, so let's get started. At the bottom here, I've got our data table, and then we've got our tips here from 10 all the way down to number 1. Okay, now in this video, if you want to jump onto a pivot table tip, then in the description area you can actually click on the tip number and it'll go straight to that. So let's get started. Number 10, Excel tables. Now every time you are using a pivot table to analyze data, your data has to be in an Excel table. Now this is tip number 10, but it should be tip number 1. Okay, so this is our data set here. You've got products, customer, salesperson, sales region, order date, sales, quantity, financial year, sales month, and sales quarter. And we'll go all the way down, we'll scroll down. We have 577 records. To put it into a Excel table, we're going to click in our data and press Control T, T for table. And it asks us here, does my table have headers? It has, so let's keep that ticked. And then our range, it automatically calculates it and it puts it in there for us. Excel is smart enough to do that. So press OK. Now it's put into a table. We know that because when we step out of it and when we step back in, it gives us a table tools option here. Now one thing is our table name is table 1, but we can call it our data. So this is an Excel table, and when you create a pivot table, it reads this data as one whole table as our data. So it reads it as one whole table, and if you add more information at the bottom of this table, all you're going to do is refresh the pivot table and then it automatically gets updated in the pivot table. Okay, so let's create a pivot table. So click anywhere now, data, and go to insert and pivot table. Now you see here the table range, it's automatically picked it up as our data. So that's our structured referencing, and it looks at our table as a whole. So let's go put it into an existing worksheet, and we'll go in here and we just click in there and press OK. So that's our pivot table in there. Now let's put in our customers in here, and then let's put in our sales in our values area. Okay, we can just change this to sales. As I said before, when we update our Excel table with new data, all we're going to do is come back here and press refresh and it automatically gets updated. So let's put in a new row of data for 1, 2, 3 warehousing. So we'll go here and let's go all the way up. And 1, 2, 3 warehousing, let's put in another row of data. Now I'll click on row 5 to highlight the whole row. I'm going to press Control plus to add another row. And then press Control D, D for down, which copies the information above. So we're going to put in a new set of transactional data here, and let's make this a large amount so we can see what happens. So let's put in 1 million. Make this bigger. If we go to our Excel table, this hasn't been updated, but because it's an Excel table, all we're going to do is refresh. If it wasn't an Excel table, we're going to click in our pivot table, go to analyze, then go to change data source, and then move it all the way down, or just so we can include that new information, but not in an Excel table. All you're going to do is just right click and then click refresh. And you see that it's been updated there. So always use Excel tables. It's tip number 10, but it should be tip number 1. Okay, I want to copy this pivot table by pressing Control and asterisk, and then Control copy. And let's go to our next tip, which is refresh. Okay, let's put it in here, and we'll make this a little bit bigger. Now, this tip is automatically refreshing your pivot table when you open the workbook. So say that you're sharing this workbook with a colleague of yours and you're both entering data, and then you don't know when someone's added new data, and you need to refresh every time you open this workbook just so you can have the most updated data. What you're going to do is right click in pivot table, go to pivot table options, and then under data, check this box here, refresh data when opening the file. Now you're going to get this message here, which says that whenever you open this workbook, the data will be refreshed in the report. Press OK. When we close this and when we reopen this same workbook, then any data that's been updated is going to be refreshed automatically. So sometimes you forget. That's going to fix this problem. Now let's go put in some data here into 123 warehousing one more time. Okay, we'll put 1 million. Let's put in 10 million. Now we'll go in here. It doesn't update because we've got to right click and refresh. Now let's just save this. Let's not refresh. Let's save this. We'll get out of it and we'll come back in and we'll see what happens. The 10 million is going to be added into 123 warehousing. Let's close this. And let's reopen the workbook. You see that? That's been updated. The $10 million has been added here into 123 warehousing, and I didn't have to refresh it. So that is an amazing tip, and one that you should always have turned on whenever you're working with pivot tables. Let's go on to tip number 8. Count to sum. Now let's copy this pivot table by going to analyze and select and type pivot table, control copy in here, and then press Control V. So this is our pivot table here. Let's just take that out for a second. Let's put in the sales again and we'll see what happens. So grab the sales and drop into the values area. We'll get a count of sales. Now I am sure that you've come across this situation many times, and I get emailed all the time and people saying, how come when I put the sales in the values area, I get a count? Now, there are 2 reasons. If your sales are grouped within a pivot table, next time you put in the sales in the values area, you get a count. But most of the time, what happens is in your data set, you have a blank cell in your sales column. So if you have at least one blank cell, Excel thinks that it's text, and therefore when you drop the sales in the values area, it'll give you a count of sales. So let's go to our data table. Now a quick way to have a look whether there's any blank cells is to click on here on the drop down filter, and then you go to the blanks. So let's go there and let's go to our blanks. And we have 3 blanks there. As I said before, Excel thinks that this is not a values column, it's a text column. So what we're going to do is put in zeros in these cells here. And then we can go back to our pivot table here. First, what we're going to do, let's take this out of here. And we're going to refresh because we made a change. So every time you make changes to your data, refresh. Let's refresh. Okay, so that's been updated there. Now let's put the sales again in our values, and this time it'll give us a sum of sales. So that is a good way to fix this little problem, which you will probably have encountered when using pivot tables. Okay, let's copy this pivot table and we'll go on to number formatting. Number formatting. Now, I always love to have commas in my data because from far away, I cannot make sense of the numbers. Maybe it's because I'm getting blind in my old age, but I'm just an accountant and I love commas in my data. Now, a good trick and one that a lot of people have asked me is, can we fix the format and then when we add new data, then the formatting stays there? Well, the answer is yes. And I'll show you how to do this. So click in your pivot table, go to Analyze, and then select Entire Pivot Table. Then select Values, and then press Ctrl 1 on your keyboard. And what this is going to do is open up the Format Cells dialog box. Under Number and Category, pick Number. Decimal places, 0, and 1,000 separator. And I also like to have a negative red there. And press OK. You see that? So now if we add in some other information, let's put in our sales and drop it in again. You see that? It's in a formatted style. Okay, let's go to our next one. Tip number 6. Let's copy this by pressing Control**, Control copy, and Control V to put it in here. Let's take that out. Okay, so we have our sum of sales. Drill down. Now, this is great if you want to know what is behind the numbers. So we see here that 123 warehousing has nearly $11 million of sales, and we've got all these other data here. We'll go all the way down. Now, say if we want to know what makes up this $10.9 million of sales. We can go back to our data table and then filter, but the easiest way is to double click in your pivot table number. So let's double click in here, and you see this, it's opened up a new sheet and it gives us all the transactions for 123 warehouse. You see there? So it's all the transactions with all the sales. Now, if we make any changes here and then refresh the pivot table, it's not gonna change. This is just a snapshot of your data. So we can just quickly have a look and say, okay, this is what it makes up. We've got a big value there. We're happy. We can just right click in here and delete, that'll get rid of it. Or we can just press Control Z a couple of times and then delete, and it just gets rid of that. So a great way to drill down into your data is to double click into your data values in your pivot table. Let's copy this pivot table, Control* to select, Control copy, and let's go to sort from A to Z. All right, now I'm sure that in your data, you have a look here, I have 10 columns or 10 fields. Now I've seen where people have 20, 30, even 100. And it gets confusing because say you want to find sales, then, okay, for me it's up there, but imagine it was field number 150. You had to scroll all the way down and find it. A good way is to put the pivot table fields in alphabetical order. Now to do this, you got to right click in your pivot table and go to Pivot Table Options. And then under Display, you've got here Field List. It's selected Sort in Data Source Order, but let's check Sort A to Z. Now I want to press OK, but when I do that, have a look here what happens on the right hand side in the pivot table fields. You see that? It's put in alphabetical order. How cool is that? Let's go to tip number 4. Let's select our pivot table and let's just put it in here and Control V. Format errors. Okay, let's take out the sum of sales out of there and let's click back in here. So I want to put in here now the quantity in the values area and just do a sum and press a sum. Now we get an error, we get a div error there. Go all the way down, you see that? we have an error. Now let's go back to our data set all the way here. And you see that in the quantity, there's a formula there. If we press F2, we can see the formula. It gives us an error. So therefore, in the pivot table, when we're summing this, it will give us an error. So let's go back to our sheet. Just right click here and then go to Format Errors and press OK. It's a quick way to go back. So we're in here now. So sometimes you get errors and it happens with your data set. And say you want to clear this error out. You can go to your data set and clear it out from there. But another way is within your pivot table. Right click in there, pivot table options. This is your friend. Now for error values, show, click that. And we can put in here 0, or you can put in there NA, text values, whatever you want. I'll put in 0 and press OK, and you see that it got rid of it. Let's go on to tip number 3. All right. Format empty cells. You have a look here, we have some empty cells. That's because if we go to our data, then there's no transactions for that particular customer. Let's go back here, right click in there and go to data table. And we'll see here, we have a couple of blank cells there. And that's okay. Maybe you want to keep them blank because there's no transactions. If you put 0, that means there's 0 transactions. But then if you have -1, that means that it could be a -1 quantity or a refund. So having nothing in there may mean that nothing has happened, which is okay in certain data sets. Now, we can go in our pivot table and go in here, and then instead of having a blank cell, we can have no transactions, or we can put in whatever we want. Let's right click in here, pivot table options, and then for empty cells, show. You can put in 0, and let's put in there NA, not applicable. Can you see that? We have our values in there. Now let's copy this and go to tip number 2. So Control asterisk, Control copy, and let's go on to tip number 2. And say I want to make this, nice and big, just like that, okay. And then our data gets updated, and then I refresh. Right click and refresh. It goes back. The column widths change. So you've done all this work, you want to make it look pretty, and then it changes. That's annoying. We can get rid of this. Right click, pivot table options, once again. Now this here under format, auto fit column widths on update. So on update means on refresh. We don't want it to auto fit. We want to keep it like that. We want to make this as big as we want. We want to make it like that. So next time we press refresh, you see, it stays fixed. All right, our final trick. Let's copy this pivot table, and then let's go in here. All right, so now let's get rid of this. I want to put the sales in our values area, and then instead of customer, I want to have our sales month in there. I want to put our financial year in the columns area, and I want to put the customers in our filters. And let's put in the products in our filters. Okay, so let's highlight this and double click, and it puts it all into perfect order, and then make it like this. Okay, and I'm just going to move this all the way down here. And what I'm going to do is just add in a couple of rows and put this there. Okay, so we have our customer and products in our filters. Now we can see that. Now say that every month or every week you're making this report, and then you want to make a report for your customers. So you've got your customers all there. All right. And then say you print off, let's say you have 123 warehouse. Okay. You see they've made their sales for the last 3 years, and then you print that off, and you go to ABC Telecom, bang, and you print that off. Now, what you can do is actually take all your customers and expand out the report filter in your worksheets here. So each customer is going to have their own worksheet with their name and their pivot table. Now, let's just select everything again. To do this, first of all, you're going to have your customers into your filters area, or the metric that you want to show in each sheet. It could be salespeople, it could be regions, but let's put in our customers. Now, we clicked in our pivot table. Let's go to Analyze, and the far left-hand side under Options, let's click on the drop down. And here under Show Report Filter Pages, click on that. All right. Now it gives us two options, the two fields that are in our filters area. One is customer and the one is products. Now we want to show our customers. So we want to show all report filter pages of customers. So when I press OK, you're going to see at the bottom here, we're going to have all our customers. It's going to be a lot of sheets. So watch out. Press OK. Bang, it's thinking, it's putting it all there. Have a look here. All right. They're all over here. Bang, bang, bang. If I right click in here, you can see them. All our customers. How cool is that? Let's click there. You can see it's put it in to a format that we had before. So that's all there. So now you can print that off and give it to your boss. Okay, so let's click on 1, 2, 3 warehousing. I want to make this a little bit better. I'm holding the Shift key and I want to scroll across all the way to the right until the last customer. Click there. Now you see that's gone into white background, and also on the top here it says group. Okay, so it's all grouped. So if I change something here into the active sheet, then it will change all the other sheets that are grouped. So what I'm going to do is just click to select on the top left hand side everything, and then just double click to make it bigger, and then just double click there. Okay, because I want to make it so you can see the numbers. All right, now let's ungroup this. To ungroup, right click in any one of your sheets and press ungroup sheets. So now if we go to all these sheets here, you see that they are all perfectly aligned. All right, so that's a bonus tip for you. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed these top 10 tricks, and I'm sure you would have learned a couple of tips that you never knew before. And you know what, start using it with your pivot table reports. Start showing off to your colleagues, teach them, and the more people that know how to use pivot tables, the better the Excel world is going to be. Now I'm going to talk about my pivot table course, but before I do that, I want you to like this video and also comment anything that you want. Also, you can subscribe to this YouTube channel so you can receive more videos just like this down the track. There's also going to be more videos on formulas, on charts, on Power BI, on lots of cool stuff. So subscribe, comment, and also like. You can also share this video with your colleagues and friends. The more people that know Excel, the better. And also don't forget to subscribe to my blog. The link is up on this video now, and also in the description area. And when you subscribe, you get weekly free Excel tips on formulas, pivot tables, charts, analysis, and many other Excel features. You get 4 tips on one email each and every Friday. And also I'll put in there some great Excel resources that I know is going to help you become better at Excel and stand out from your peers and the crowd. So sign up. It's for free, and you're going to get great value. There's over 10,000 professionals that have already signed up. So what are you waiting for? Now let's go and talk about my awesome pivot table course, which is called the Extreme Pivot Table course. And I know that you're going to love it. Okay, so in the course, you've learned a lot of things about pivot tables, but there are heaps more. Now I've got a course called the Extreme Pivot Tables, and I've worked over 12 months to get this course out. I've read many books, I've searched the web, I've looked at all the different scenarios and answers, and I've come up with a course where I have over 200 videos, 217 to be exact, and I go through every single aspect of pivot tables. I also have a lot of tips, and I also have a lot of business finance cases and some accounting cases as well. So I put everything into practice. I also have some bonus workbooks, and I'll show you just quickly here. Okay, so this is the course here. It's an online course, and it's also downloadable as well. So you can view it online, and you can also download the videos, and you can view them when you are in transit, in a train, or you're waiting at an airport, or you're flying, and you've got some time to watch some videos without being connected. And the good thing about this is that all these videos are about 3 minutes each, or just less than 3 minutes. So they're quick, they get straight to the point, and you also get each workbook that pertains to each tutorial. Okay, so I have an introduction here. I have a pivot table cheat sheet, which is awesome. You can hang on your wall. I have some shortcuts, my top 20, my favorite ones, and they're in animated GIF format, so you can play those and just sit back and view the tips. And also have all the workbooks, okay? So they're all downloaded there. Okay, now the first chapter is arranging your data set. So it just goes a bit about how you should prepare your data, how you refresh your data, and how you customize your pivot tables. There's a lot of information there. Now the second chapter is about value field settings, and you know how we talked about the sum, count, average, maximum. I'll go through all of those. Now the third chapter is about value field settings, show values as, the year to date or running total in, as well as the difference from the previous month. I have 14 different scenarios there, and I have a couple of accounting and financial case studies there. Now in grouping, we grouped dates, we grouped values, we also grouped text, and you can also group by different scenarios as well, okay? And I show them in here, all right? Now sorting, you can also sort from different scenarios, left to right, A to Z, Z to A. Now filter, there's a lot of different filters. There's heaps of filters. And I go through every filter that is available. In chapter 7, my favorite chapter is all about slices, how you customize it, how you connect it. And I've got some great business case studies here and some interactive fun tutorial for you. We also have calculated fields and items. Now, we didn't go through that, but it's a little bit specialized. But in here, I'll show you exactly how you create a calculated field and also a calculated item. Now, pivot charts, I'll go through pivot charts and how to format them. There's 21 different tutorials just on pivot charts. So there's a lot of information there. Now, also go about conditional formatting. There's different ways to conditional format. That's a whole course in itself. But I'll go through every single conditional format tool within a pivot table, and I'll show you how to do that. And it just brightens up your pivot table, and it just looks much better, and then the result is just much more appealing, and then your management team is definitely gonna love you for it. Okay, now the get pivot table formula, a lot of people don't understand that. It's a great formula. I explained to you how you should apply it and when you should apply it, and it's a great tool to use. Now also talk about macros in here, so you can also do pivot tables with macros, so you can automate it with the press of a button. You can change your pivot table. So there's a few tips there, a bit of data management and how you can reduce the size of your data, and also different tips. And also I've got in there how you can interact with Microsoft's OneDrive. Okay, and finally I have bonus videos just for you guys, and it goes through sales forecasting. I also make a balance sheet, an interactive balance sheet, reconciling customer payments, a break-even model, heaps of information there. You get all the videos there. There's 217. You get all the workbooks. And I'll just show you now. Let's just go into one video there. Let's just click there, and then it goes into the video there. Okay, you see how quick that is, and it comes up. Okay, on the left, you have the 14 different chapters, and then we're in here now. Okay, so it shows the video. Let's just make it bigger. So you can see it there, and you probably, I don't know whether you can hear it or not, but it's nice volume there. You can hear everything. You can also download the video. Just press that, and then bang, look at that. You have it straight away. You can download it. Okay, you can watch it whenever you want, offline, at work, in the plane. Now, attachments in there, I have the workbooks. You click on that and then press open, the workbook comes up. So you have that. Okay, let me go back in here, and so we can exit out of that. You can also see how you're progressing. So the percentage of videos that you've seen and what's left as well. You can also discuss. So you have any questions, you can go and discuss with your fellow students and also with myself. So if you have an issue, just write something there and I'll respond back to you straight away. So this is a complete comprehensive course, and my fellow Excel bloggers have said that this is currently the best course in the world. Another person said that this is the most comprehensive course that they've ever come across. And it is. I've spent a lot of hours, a lot of time just to make this course remarkable. So once you finish it, you just become an Excel expert, and you just get to another level and you can get those promotions that you want. And once again, thank you very much for taking time out to take part in this special Pivot Table webinar. I hope that you've learned a lot. I know that you've learned a lot, and you've taken the first step into becoming a Excel master. Okay, so good luck, and I'll see you inside the course.